Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Open Format with me, Rajat Kane. Well, in this episode, I'll talk about another important landmark short film I made. This is on the Cellular jail. As we're discussing about the architectural marvels across India, the reason why we included Cellular jail, which has a very important, extremely critical history related to our independence and of course the nation building. It is where freedom fighters starting from the late 19th century were deported from the mainland and kept in solitude. Now, why this particular monument of national importance, of our national heritage, was included in the series where we were kind of celebrating the architectural marvels. The reason for this to be included was simple. There is an architectural story about this monument as well, no matter how much sordid, no matter how much difficult it was to comprehend. As we're talking about the series grand structure, in which we're not just discussing about the architectural beauty of it, of the motifs, of the story, of the reasons, but also a thought process of the builder. In this documentary, which is of roughly an hour-long duration, we stuck to a formula in which we had a tripartite sort of narrative. The first thing was the structure itself. The second thing were the motives. Motives, as I say, in any storytelling, it's important. Here the motives included several things which were curated for the museum purpose, along with the name slabs of the freedom fighters. Also, a lot of pictures which were there dug out from the records when the British were ousted and we got independence. Lastly, and very important thing, the elements of water, and of course, the air of solitude. We have to understand that today Port Blair from mainland is maximum 4 hours away from flight. From Delhi, you have to catch a flight. You'll reach there in 4 hours. From Bombay or from any other city, you'll reach there in the confines of 4 hours. So when the freedom fighters, who were also the political prisoners of the British, when they were deported from the mainland, they didn't only have to face the British and the wrath of their officers, but also the elements, the sea route, difficulties of sea transportation because they were bunked into a ship. It were inexplicable conditions in which the freedom fighters were taken en route from several Indian cities. And mind you, a lot of these freedom fighters were highly educated, middle class Indians who who had raised banner of revolt against the colonial rule. And they were targeted especially by the British so that they can be cut off from the mainland, so that their voice, their intellectual thought process, their robust ideas about the opposition to British should not reach the masses across the country. That was more the purpose why and how these freedom fighters, this particular category of freedom fighters and political prisoners, were deported to Port Blair and then eventually to Cellular jail. Well, once you see the documentary, you will get to know about the history of the structure itself. The first version of the overseas isolated prison was built in the Viper Island. Viper Island is another island adjoining the main Port Blair area, or you can say the main Port Blair Isles. That was the earlier version of the isolated prison in which several atrocities were committed on the freedom fighters. Let me talk about the Cellular jail. What we noticed over there and what is important in the history of its architecture was, I'll not call it marvel, I'll call it a building of national importance, a building of cultural heritage, a building every Indian should at least try and visit and see how the independence was won. The Cellular jail was constructed in a Pentonville prison concept style, which was there in England. Here you have a central tower, and then you have flanks of corridors which is housing the cell. Now the way it's constructed, the Pentonville style, is something where a prisoner is lodged in a prison. What they can see is the other flank of the corridor, which is not the face of the prison but the back of the prison. So the idea was to separate every freedom fighters in a way that they cannot see each other, they cannot communicate with each other. However, they can hear each other in terms of atrocities. They can hear when they were paraded down in a central lawn that you'll get to see if you're there, or if you see the documentary, when the prisoners were taken over there. So those ones who were lodged inside the cells, they were able to hear what is going on. That was the style, that was the concept of the prison. They were cut off from the mainland, and even here they were kept in a complete isolation. So therefore, I would say not every architectural building is a marvel. However, every architectural building, I would say, is having some sort of importance, and going forward in future, we get to see stories behind it. We get to take narratives from it, and of course inspiration from it. So it's rather paradoxical that in a series where we classified the monuments or the buildings in terms of the marvels and the beauties of architecture, like the Parliament House, the old Parliament House building, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, Taj Mahal, Amba Vilas Palace of Mysore, and Sri Harmandir Sahib, which has a religious, cultural significance in terms of its architecture, the Red Fort, the Humayun's tomb. So we had profiled these monuments, these buildings of national importance in series, and we felt that it's extremely important to also have a cellular jail, which is a stand-alone structure of national importance, of historical importance, to be included in the series. Well, that's it in this episode. I believe that you're enjoying these conversations. I've been getting some feedback, I've been getting some comments, I've been getting some personal messages. Please keep giving your feedback. Please keep letting me know how this platform of information, which is more of an open style of communication, nothing is scripted here, everything is completely unscripted. It's just an extempore conversation I have with you. Please keep letting me know how this can be taken to another level so that I can make it more engaging. Thank you for watching this episode. Please follow, subscribe, and like the open format. Thank you. See you soon.